All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the weekly recap. Today is January 2nd, 2021. So welcome. It's the first week now of the new year. And let's take a look at what was going on last week, what we think, may be possibilities going forward here in the upcoming week, and some potential ideas. So if we start here, we'll take a look at the SPY, looking here at a daily chart going back 6 months. You can see that we've had this consolidation here for a few days, and it looked as if at the end of the close on Friday that we may be breaking out. Really what we want to look to see is whether or not we're going to have true confirmation of that going forward. If we see that we're going to break out here above the it looks like about 374 mark, then what we're going to be having to look at is staying long, and we'll look at what could be some potential options. What we also got to consider is that a possibility could be that we look above, and then if we fall back below 374, we may be back in a range and looking to target down low at about 371, and that could be an option on the put side. The third alternative could be if we stay in range, and then what we would be looking at doing is looking to see if we could collect any premium. If we could do that, then we would be looking here, possibly here around the mid strike of 372, 373. Looking out here, and SPY is nice. They have weekly options. We could be looking to see, let's say, to January 6th, we could look at a 372 iron fly. So if we take a look here, this is in Thinkorswim. If we sold the 372, 372 call, 372 put, if you look at the width of the strikes, here you have the 372 is 430, and then the 372 on the put side is 220. So it's about 650. So what we could do is, let's say if we go 8 wide and we cap this iron fly at 380, and then on the put side, we could look at 364. You can see there, that would be $5 in credit, and our total risk is $8 minus the 5, so just under $3. This may be nice just to collect a little theta, and let's say you put on a few, then that could be potentially, $20 in credit that you're selling for, and then we would look to see if we could, take, 50 cents to $1 off of this. Now let's take a look at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ similarly is here consolidating at the all-time highs. If we look and we find that it's going to break above 315, then we could be looking at longs. If it looks like it's just going to be more of a chop fest, then similarly we could be looking at, QQQ, looking at the end of the week. I personally don't like QQQ because you can see they only have weeklies. Whereas with SPY, it's nice. You could trade for Monday, you could trade for Wednesday, as well as for Friday. So that gives you a lot more flexibility when it comes to collecting premium and making plays. Now, if we look at IWM this past week, it's been on a tear, but we saw that it had a pullback. It looked like it was head towards the 20-day simple moving average, but you could see it stopped just shy of that. There was a little bit of buying pressure that came in, but now it may just go sideways. That's what we got to take a look and see. If we start to see weakness in the IWM, then our first target easily would be down to the 20 at 193. And then we could see if it's going to break lower, then we would have to look at, potentially lower puts. If we see strength in the market overall in the first week with the SPY, the NASDAQ, then we got to be looking at what we could potentially do in position for the IWM to be going higher. But right now, this looks to be the weakest of the three top line figures. So this is one that I don't think that we should necessarily be looking at longs for in the small caps, but the SPY has an opportunity for a breakout, and the NASDAQ has an opportunity for a breakout. Let's take a look at some of the big players. So we have Facebook here, and you guys know how I feel about Facebook. You can look here on this daily. It's just a big chop fest. Nothing here whatsoever that I would even be looking at An easy, potential could be above 280. If we see a break above 280, then we could be looking at possibly a call butterfly, 280, 290, 300. We could see what that could potentially price out for us. Let's say going out 2 weeks, if we were going to buy a 280, 290 call butterfly, that's not bad. So you get 2 weeks out of this for $1.39 for a $10 wide butterfly. And then you have 10 minus 139 as your potential profit at its maximum. So we could be looking at that if we see strength in the top line figures and we see some strength in Facebook finally breaking above 280. That's something that we would have on our list. Apple, this was one that we had a really nice, play in this back to its all-time highs with a call butterfly. And you could see what they've done, just a lot of short-term traders that are out there. They took it up to the prior all-time highs and then they sold it off. If we start to see in Apple consolidation here, and then ultimately we're starting to turn back upwards, then above 138, then we have to be looking long. If we see weakness in the market, then our first target we're going to be looking at is going to be here right around 130. If we break below 130, then we could start to say, let's target 127. Netflix had a really interesting week. There was quite a bit of call buying that was going on early in the week. You could see this is like Facebook. It's just had months and months of just chop fest here within, a decent range. But if you take a look here, what's been happening with Netflix is you're starting to get successively higher lows. So this does look as if it's going to be trending upward. So once we've broken above here, this 535, it's risen. I think that, as long as we stay above 535, you could stay long Netflix. As a first target, I would say we would be looking at about 560 and then ultimately possibly to 575. So how could we structure that? We could be looking at butterflies. So if we were looking at going out 2 weeks and Netflix out to 575, let's say we want to buy 15 points wide. That's not bad. So $1.35 for 15 points wide on Netflix to get back to its all-time high. And the potential profit there is 15 minus 135, so almost $1,400 for each contract that you're going to be putting on. Amazon, this one had what looks to be at the moment a false breakout. So we were marking here this 3260 level. Once it took out that, you saw that it was a long, but clearly what it's done now is it's closed underneath that. So we need to keep an eye on Amazon and see what's going to be going on with the market. If it looks as if the market is going to stay long and it's going to be strong, if this reclaims 3260, I think that's going to be a first signal that that's going to be a buy. We could be looking at first to 3350. If we retake 3350, then we have to be looking at 3500. We know Amazon is going to have its earnings that are going to be coming out in early February. What it often likes to do into earnings is it likes to go up. So we would be looking at possibly targeting out to 3,500 with a call butterfly. What could we potentially structure late into January? With earnings being here early in February, we would want to play it just prior to that. So let's look at what the end of January would be potentially pricing. If we were to get a 3,400 call butterfly, and let's just take a look out to 3,600, and then let's see at 3,800. So you see there's quite a bit of debit that's in this. What we would really need to see is that we're starting to have, strength here in Amazon. Once we see 3,350 break, I think that would be a decent trade, which you can see you get time, you get almost a month out of this. If you saw a lot of strength and it was happening quickly, you could look towards, potentially putting this on even earlier. Let's say we break 3350 early in the week. We could go sooner and it would be a few dollars less. Microsoft, not really seeing much in Microsoft. This is, showing some choppiness at the moment. It did try to break above here our mark that we had at 225. and it had a little bit of a push, but it's fallen right back into range. What we need to keep an eye on is whether or not it's going to reclaim 225. And if it does that, then we could be looking at targeting its prior all-time highs. Tesla was really interesting this week. So what happened was there was an analyst that came out late in the week who mentioned that Tesla may be on track for 500,000 car deliveries. If you guys see here on the screen at the bottom, this was just published this morning from a news release from Tesla. And what they came out and said was that they delivered 500,000 cars this past year. So this sounds bullish. You know, right now we've broken above the prior all-time highs. We've gone over 695. And this is now just in clear air. I wouldn't be looking at in any ways trying to get short Tesla. With that positive news that's come out, this could very easily go higher. How much higher could it go? You know, let's just say if we wanted to double this range, so this was 700 down to 600, I think easily, you know, targeting $100 higher. So what we may be looking at here early in the week is if Tesla is showing strength based off of that news, we could look at seeing if we could buy some in the money verticals, something like so. You know, this is going to be a little bit more expensive, but 700, 705, and this would be just at the prior breakout point. And let's say this is 350 or 380. We could get a possible $1.20 profit if it stays above 705 by end of the week. And we could put on a few of these. Let's say we put, you know, 4 of them on, and we have a potential profit of $1.20. That'll get us close to $5 in total profit. What we could use then with that $5 is also simultaneously be buying some long call butterflies out for the following week. So let's say we buy something like 700, 800, 900 out for the following week. So that would help discount this $21 debit and help make it a little bit more palatable. Obviously, if you wanted to couple the long call verticals as well as with some possible short puts, then that could also bring down this debit. And this is 100 points wide. So that's 100 minus whatever debit you can get this down to. You know that's going to be a nice profit for each lot that you're going to be putting on. The chip stocks, NVIDIA, this is consolidating here under its 20 and under its 50-day simple moving average. This is one that I wouldn't be looking at touching whatsoever. Google, this has also been chopping around in range. This looks like it could be potentially dangerous. It's not getting much of a lift here off of the 50. There also is this gap just below 1700. This isn't something that I look as, you know, one that we would be looking at. The banks do look interesting. So if we do see break above in the all-time highs in the SPY, if we're seeing a nice start into January, the banks are something that I think that you could be looking at going long. So we had this nice breakout here from this short consolidation, and I would be thinking that either JP Morgan or Goldman's, you can see we've had this breakout. This is a nice strong candle. Getting long either of these two banks could be a good possibility. If we take a look at AMD, this is just chopping around in range. It looks like perhaps it's starting to form a base. We just got to keep an eye on, take a look to see if it's going to reclaim here this 20. And if it reclaims that 20, that would be just above or just below its prior breakout point. And if that happens, then we could be looking at targeting up to 98. This week was also interesting for the internet stocks from China. There was some negative news that came out with BABA, and what happened was that you had a gap down, and we re-entered into that gap, and that was a long signal right there that we had. Now we got to look to see what's going to be happening. If we end up rolling back over and getting back under 230, then I think that selling any calls in this area could be a possibility, and then also getting some short calls plus long put verticals as options. This is a little bit tricky because you never know what kind of news may come out, you know, internationally, and this could possibly just be on a big squeeze and you may get run over. So that's something that size-wise, if you are going to be looking at doing it, I would stay small. Baidu, this really took off of the negative news and catalyst from Baba, and it had a huge candle and a big breakout. You know, I don't see anything here that I would be wanting to chase after. If you take a look at here in the past 3 months, we've had a big move in Baba up, consolidation, and then another leg up. So what I would be looking at is to see if we're going to get any sort of pullback into this consolidation here. If it's going to fall back in there, then we could be looking at potential longs. There was some interesting news this week on Fubo. This has been a momentum meme stock on Wall Street Bets and on FinTwit. If you guys know Ronnie in Chicago, he was hot on Fubo. And what you could see here is that there was quite a bit of momentum, which took Fubo up, parabolic, up to 60. There were a few analysts then subsequently who cashed in on their longs likely. And what it did is it sold off with some negative news, and it's come back here into this consolidation. I think keeping an eye on Fubo if this is something you're looking to play. If it comes down to 25, if there's any sort of buying pressure, that may be just a quick short pullback that you could buy. But this isn't something that I would be looking at anyways to making any moves for. Jumia, this is the potential future of Africa. And could this be the Baba of Africa, the Amazon of Africa? There is some hype that's out there in FinTwit, which is saying that. So if that is going to be something that's going to be happening, I think that if we can stay above 41, then a long makes sense. If we find that we're going to be consolidating under 41, ultimately take out here this 20 at about 39, then I don't know that I would be looking long right now for Jumia. And those really are the plays that I was looking at here for the past week and the upcoming week. If there's anyone out there in the chat who has any ideas or questions. All right. If not, hope you guys have a good Saturday.